What this gray visitor revealed to me about Jesus' true power will shatter everything you think you know about loss, grief, and the possibility of connecting with those you've loved and lost. Before this story ends, you'll understand why your prayers for the departed haven't brought you peace, and you'll discover that death is not the ending churches taught you to fear. The consciousness technology Jesus mastered, the ability to communicate across dimensions, to heal wounds that transcend physical body, to manifest love as literal force, these abilities exist within you right now, dormant but ready to awaken. If you're ready to hear truths that have been hidden for 2,000 years, truths that will transform your relationship with grief, with God, and with your own divine potential, subscribe to Stories of Light and activate the bell. Because what happened to me in my Oregon workshop in 1986 will open your eyes to realities more extraordinary than anything you imagined possible. Now, let me tell you how it all began. November 14th, 1986, 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I'd been staring at the workshop clock for 20 minutes, unable to focus on the rocking horse in front of me. The same rocking horse I'd been trying to finish for 3 months. The same design I'd carved 100 times before Tommy died. My workshop sat 50 yards behind the main house, surrounded by Douglas firs that blocked most of the light from the road. I preferred it that way after Sarah left. The isolation, the darkness, the smell of cedar and pine that reminded me of when things were still whole. I was sanding the horse's mane, poorly, I might add, my hands shaking like they always did now, when the lights flickered. Not the workshop lights, the sky. Through the window, a blue-white pulse illuminated the entire tree line. Then another, then a sound like metal tearing, high-pitched and wrong that made my teeth ache. "Transformer blew," I muttered, setting down the sandpaper. But I'd lived in Timber Falls, Oregon for 38 years, and I knew what a blown transformer sounded like, and this wasn't it. The third pulse was so bright I had to shield my eyes. And then silence. Complete, absolute silence. No wind, no insects, no distant highway noise. Just nothing. My rational mind said go back inside the house, lock the doors, call Sheriff Morrison. But something else, something I couldn't name, pulled me toward the door, toward the woods, toward whatever had just crashed in my back 40 acres. I grabbed my flashlight and the .30-30 Winchester I kept for cougars. My hands had stopped shaking. Isn't that strange? 3 months of trembling hands, and suddenly they were steady as oak. The November cold bit through my flannel as I walked into the tree line. The beam of my flashlight seemed weak, inadequate against the darkness between the firs. But I kept walking, following the scent of something burning. Not wood, not plastic, something else entirely. Ozone, maybe. Electricity. 200 yards in, I found it. The craft, I had no other word for it, had carved a 20-foot trench through the forest floor, taking out young pines like they were matchsticks. It was maybe 15 feet across, disc-shaped, the color of pewter or old silver. No seams, no rivets, no markings I could identify. The surface seemed to absorb my flashlight beam rather than reflect it, and it was split open along one side, like a seed pod that had cracked. "Jesus Christ," I whispered, then immediately felt foolish. I hadn't invoked that name with any real feeling since Tommy's funeral 6 months ago, when Pastor Richards had assured me my son was in a better place while I gripped that tiny coffin and wanted to burn the whole church down. Movement near the craft's opening. I raised the rifle, finger on the trigger, safety off. "Who's there?" Show yourself." What emerged wasn't human. 4 feet tall, maybe less, impossibly thin limbs that seemed too fragile to support even that slight frame, skin like polished gray stone, smooth and luminous in my flashlight beam, and the eyes, God, those eyes, huge, black, almond-shaped, reflecting my light like a cat's eyes, but with a depth that suggested intelligence, awareness, something ancient looking out at me. It stumbled, fell. One arm bent at an angle that made my stomach turn. The being looked up at me, and I felt something in my mind, not words, not sound, but meaning, clear as if someone had spoken directly into my thoughts. "Please, injured, need help, no harm intended." Every instinct screamed at me to run. This was impossible. This was insane. I was a 62-year-old woodworker from Oregon, and aliens didn't crash in Oregon forests, and I definitely wasn't equipped to handle first contact with whatever this thing was. But then, it tried to stand again and collapsed, and I saw the blue liquid seeping from its arm. Blood? Something else? And suddenly, I wasn't seeing an alien anymore. I was seeing a living being in pain. I lowered the rifle. "Can you walk?" "Difficult. Leg damaged. Arm broken." All right, let me think. I looked back toward the workshop, then at the being, then at the crashed craft. My mind was racing, trying to catalog impossibilities, trying to make sense of something that defied sense. I heard myself say, "I'm going to help you. I'm going to get you back to my workshop. I've got some medical supplies, nothing sophisticated, but clean bandages, antiseptic. We'll figure out your arm, okay?" The being's huge eyes seemed to study me for a long moment. Then, "You show compassion. This is unexpected. Most humans respond with fear, violence." Yeah, well, I set down the rifle and approached slowly, hands visible. I'm too old and too tired to be afraid anymore, and I've seen enough suffering to know it when I see it. I fashioned a makeshift sling from my belt and helped the being stand. It weighed almost nothing, 70 pounds at most, like carrying a child. Like carrying Tommy when he was small and fell asleep in the truck on the way home from fishing trips. The walk back took 20 minutes. The being communicated once more during the journey. "Your grief is visible. You carry great loss." "Don't," I said sharply. "Don't talk about that." "Understood. But know this. I came to your world for a reason. And finding you, specifically you, Thomas McKinley, is not accident. There are things you need to know about the one you call Jesus, about healing, about the nature of what you think of as death." I stopped, walking, stared down at this impossible creature in my arms. "How do you know my name?" "I know many things, and before I repair my vessel and leave your world, I will share them with you, because you are ready to hear truths your species has forgotten." Tom James McKinley had been a woodworker for 41 years, since he was 21 and his father handed him the keys to McKinley Custom Furniture, with hands marred by arthritis and a smile that said, "It's yours now. Make me proud." He'd made his father proud, built the business from a 2-man operation to something that employed 6 craftsmen at its peak. McKinley rocking horses were in homes across the Pacific Northwest. Each one hand-carved, hand-painted, signed on the belly where children's hands would never wear away the signature. Tom had always said, "When you build something for a child, you're building a memory." Better make it count. The workshop behind his house in Timber Falls was where the magic happened, where raw timber became heirloom pieces, where Tom could lose himself in the meditation of chisel against wood, the smell of fresh-cut pine, the satisfaction of creating something beautiful and functional and built to outlast him. But that was before. Before April 28, 1986. Before 7-year-old Tommy McKinley chased a ball into the street. Before the driver of the pickup truck, a kid barely 18, looked down at his radio for just 2 seconds. Before Tom's entire world condensed into a hospital waiting room, a doctor's apologetic eyes, and the words internal injuries and couldn't save him and so very sorry. Before Tom held his son's still warm hand and begged God, the same God he'd prayed to every Sunday at First Methodist Church for 38 years, to please, please, please take him instead. Let Tommy live. I'll give anything, anything. Before the silence that followed that prayer, the crushing, infinite silence that told Tom everything he needed to know about whether anyone was listening. The funeral was on May 2nd. Sarah, his wife of 26 years, stood beside him at the graveside, but she might as well have been on another planet. They hadn't touched in days, hadn't really talked except to discuss logistics. Who would notify Tommy's school? Which suit to bury him in? Whether to have the reception at the house or the church? Tom had chosen a small casket from Morrison's funeral home, but at the last minute, he'd gone into his workshop and built a new one. Walnut, with cherry wood inlays, carved with stars and moons and the constellation Orion, because Tommy had loved astronomy, loved staring at the night sky through the telescope Tom had given him for Christmas. He'd worked 72 hours straight on that casket, barely sleeping, not eating. When Sarah saw it, she'd wept so hard she couldn't breathe. "It's beautiful," she'd whispered. "He would have loved it." But beautiful boxes don't bring back the dead. Pastor Richards had presided over the service. He talked about God's plan, about Tommy being called home, about the promise of reunion in heaven if Tom and Sarah kept their faith strong. Tom had stood there, holding Sarah's hand, staring at the casket he'd built, and felt something fundamental break inside him. Not his heart. That was already destroyed. Something deeper. His faith, maybe. His belief that the universe had any order or meaning or justice. God's plan, he thought, as they lowered Tommy into the ground. What kind of God plans for a 7-year-old to die, screaming in pain while his father can't do anything but watch? He'd stopped going to church the next Sunday. Sarah had gone alone. She'd gone alone the Sunday after that, and the Sunday after that. By June, she'd stopped asking him to come with her. By July, they were sleeping in separate rooms. By August, she'd moved in with her sister in Portland. The divorce papers arrived in September. Tom signed them without reading them, sitting at his workbench in the shop, a half-finished rocking horse gathering dust. Sarah hadn't been cruel. She'd tried. God knows they'd both tried. But grief doesn't bring people together the way movies suggest. Sometimes it's a wedge. Sometimes you look at the person you love and all you can see is the child you lost together, and the pain is too much, and the only way to breathe is to stop looking. She'd taken half the money from the business, the house in Portland they'd bought as an investment, and the photo albums. She'd left him the Timber Falls property, the workshop, and one picture of Tommy at age 5, holding up a trout as big as he was, gap-toothed grin bright as sunshine. That picture sat on Tom's workshop desk now, right next to the unfinished rocking horse. Tom had been raised Assembly of God, though he'd switched to Methodist when he married Sarah. His father had been a deacon. His mother taught Sunday school for 30 years. Tom had believed with the uncomplicated certainty of a child. God is good. Prayer works. Jesus saves. Heaven is real. Follow the rules and you'll be rewarded. He'd followed the rules. He'd prayed every night. He tithed. He volunteered for church work parties. He taught his son to pray, to be kind,
to trust in God's love. And God let his son die screaming in pain. After the funeral, Tomic tried to pray. He'd knelt by his bed like he'd done since childhood and attempted to form words. Why? Why, Tommy? Why not me? Where are you? Why won't you answer? But the ceiling had remained silent. The air had remained empty. And after 3 weeks of praying into void, Tom had stopped trying. At 62, Tom had everything he'd thought mattered when he was 21. A successful business, though he'd sold it in October, couldn't bear to make furniture anymore. A paid-off property, retirement savings, skills that could provide income if he ever wanted to work again. And none of it meant anything. His days followed the same pattern. Wake at 5 a.m. from dreams of Tommy, make coffee, sit at the kitchen table and stare at nothing. Go to the workshop around 10 a.m., pretend to work on the rocking horse, sand the same piece of wood for 3 hours, go back inside at dusk, microwave something, drink 4 fingers of whiskey, fall asleep in the chair watching TV he wasn't really watching. His few remaining friends had stopped calling after he'd ignored them enough times. His brother in Seattle had tried to visit in September, but Tom had pretended not to be home. Even the neighbors who'd known him for decades had learned to wave from a distance and not attempt conversation. The loneliness wasn't just physical. It was existential, spiritual. Tom felt disconnected from everything, from other people, from purpose, from the God he'd believed in for 60 decades, from the man he used to be. Late at night, staring at the bedroom ceiling, Tom would ask the same question, over and over. Is this all there is? You live, you love, you lose everything, and then you just exist, waiting to die yourself so maybe you'll see them again. If heaven is real, if any of it was real. He'd stopped believing heaven was real sometime in August, which meant Tommy was just gone, erased, extinguished like a candle flame. And Tom would never hold him again, never hear his laugh again, never watch him grow up, never meet his future wife, never hold his grandchildren. Just gone. The rocking horse sat on his workbench, half finished, covered in sawdust. Tom had started it in July as a memorial, a way to channel his grief into something beautiful. But every time he picked up the chisel, his hands would start shaking and he'd see Tommy's face and he'd have to set it down before he broke something. On November 14th, 1986, Tom had spent another evening pretending to work on the horse, failing, and considering whether there was any point in continuing. Continuing the horse, continuing anything. And then, the sky lit up with blue-white fire, and everything had changed.
I settled the gray being on my workbench, gently, carefully, like handling spun glass. Under the workshop's fluorescent lights, it looked even more fragile. The gray skin was translucent in places, showing a tracery of what might have been veins, glowing faintly with bioluminescence. "Okay," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Let me see that arm." The being extended its injured limb. The break was clean, midway between what passed for elbow and wrist. The blue liquid, I couldn't think of it as blood, but what else would you call it, had slowed to a seep. I had a first aid kit in the workshop. Nothing sophisticated. Bandages, antiseptic, medical tape, a bottle of iodine from 1979. I also had wood splints of various sizes, and clean cotton rags. "This is going to hurt," I said. "I need to stabilize the break." "Pain is manageable. Proceed." I washed my hands in the workshop sink, then cleaned the wound as best I could with antiseptic. The being didn't flinch, though I felt something in my mind. A pressure,
a tension that suggested pain being experienced and transcended simultaneously. The bone, if that's what it was, felt different from human bone, lighter, more flexible. I aligned the break as gently as possible, then splinted it with 2 thin pieces of cedar, wrapping them firmly with cotton bandages. "The leg?" I asked. "Less severe. Sprain, not break. Your term would be strain." I fashioned a compression wrap for the leg, working in silence. My hands had found their old competence, the muscle memory of 40 years of careful work taking over. Strange, I thought, how crisis can steady you. How purpose, even the purpose of helping an impossible alien being, can quiet the trembling. When I finished, the being's enormous eyes studied me with an intensity that was unnerving and oddly comforting. "You have healer's hands, gentle, precise. You have done this before, cared for, injured. Used to patch up my workers when they got careless with the tools, and my son when he'd fall off his bike or skin his knees or..." I stopped, cleared my throat. "It doesn't matter." "It matters. Everything matters. Especially grief." I said, "Don't talk about that." "Forgiveness. But Thomas, may I call you Thomas?" "Tom. Everyone calls me Tom." "Tom, I must tell you, I did not crash here by accident. My vessel experienced, your term would be, mechanical failure, but this is not accurate. I came to this place, to this moment, to find you specifically." I'd been cleaning up the medical supplies. My hands stopped moving. "What?" "I am Zalon. I am what you call gray, though we name ourselves people of the third frequency. I am researcher, teacher, what you might term ambassador, and I have traveled very far to deliver messages to those ready to receive them." "Messages about what?" "About the one you call Jesus of Nazareth, about the nature of consciousness, about healing, about death." A pause, and then, "about your son." Something cold flooded through my chest. "You don't talk about my son. You don't get to." "Tommy is not gone." The workshop tilted. I grabbed the edge of the workbench to steady myself. "What did you say?" "Your son, Tommy James McKinley, born January 14th, 1979. Transitioned April 28th, 1986. He is not gone, Tom. Death is not what your religions have taught you. Consciousness does not end. It transitions. And Tommy is very much aware, very much present, very much wanting you to know he is okay." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My vision was blurring. "How do you know his name? How do you know his birthday? How?" "Because he is here, right now, in this workshop. He has been with you every day since his transition. He watches you work on the rocking horse. He sees your tears. He feels your grief. And he is desperate for you to understand. You are not separated.
You have never been separated. Only your perception has changed. That's not possible. Tom, before this night ends, I will prove to you that everything you believed about death, about consciousness, about Jesus's true teachings was incomplete. Your churches taught you lies, not from malice, but from their own limited understanding. Jesus came to demonstrate that death is illusion, that consciousness transcends physical form, that love is bridge connecting all awareness across all dimensions. I sat down hard on my workshop stool, put my head in my hands. I can't do this. I can't. Yes, you can, because you are ready. Your grief has broken you open, and only the broken can receive new truth. Only those who have lost everything are ready to discover that nothing is truly lost. Only the desperate are willing to see what has always been there. Zalon reached out with his uninjured hand, 3 long fingers, impossibly delicate, and placed it on my arm. Let me show you what Jesus really taught. Let me show you what Tommy wants you to know. Let me show you that you have been lied to about the most important truth in the universe. Love never ends. Consciousness never dies. And your son is closer now than your next breath.
I made coffee. I don't know why. What do you do when an alien who knows your dead son's name tells you everything you believed about reality is wrong? You make coffee. Xianen had moved to the old armchair in the corner, the one with the torn upholstery I'd been meaning to replace for 6 years. He looked impossibly out of place, impossibly alien, and yet somehow also perfectly calm, perfectly present. I handed him a mug. I don't know if you drink coffee, but I do not require sustenance in the way you do, but I appreciate the gesture. It is a ritual of hospitality. This is important. I sat across from him on a workshop stool, cradling my own mug, trying to organize my thoughts into something coherent. You said Tommy is here, right now? Yes. I don't see him. Your physical eyes are limited to very narrow spectrum of light, very specific frequency of matter. Tommy exists at higher vibrational state now, but he is here. He is always here. Prove it. Xianem's enormous eyes seemed to grow somehow larger, more luminous. Very well. Tommy is telling me, showing me, memory. You and he on a lake, dawn fishing trip. He was 6 years old. He caught his first trout, but it was too small, and you taught him about catch and release. You said, sometimes the right thing is letting go, even when you want to hold on. He says that memory means everything to him now. He says, tell my dad I understand now what he meant. He says, tell my dad I'm okay. I let go of the hurt, and now I'm free. The mug slipped from my hands, shattered on the concrete floor. Coffee spread in a dark pool. That fishing trip had been just Tommy and me. Sarah had stayed home. We'd never told anyone about the catch and release lesson. It was our private moment, our secret. How? Because he is here, Tom. He is showing me, and he wants you to know. You have been praying wrong. For 6 months, you have been praying into void, begging external God to give you answers. But God is not external. God is not up there judging your worthiness. God is within you, has always been within you.
And Tommy is not separated from you by death. He is separated only by your belief that separation is real. I don't understand.
Your religion taught you that consciousness, what you call soul, goes to distant heaven when body dies. This is incorrect. Consciousness transitions to higher dimensional state, but it remains connected to those it loves. Grief creates wall. Your belief in separation creates wall. But Tommy has never left you. He is with you every morning when you cannot finish the rocking horse. He is with you every night when you drink whiskey to numb the pain. He is with you now. Tears were streaming down my face. I didn't wipe them away. If he's here, why can't I feel him? You can. You have. Every time you sense presence in empty room, every time you feel a wave of love that seems to come from nowhere, every time you dream of him and wake feeling he was truly there, he was truly there. Your rational mind dismisses these experiences as imagination, as wishful thinking, but they are real, more real than this physical world you think is solid. Jesus of Nazareth understood this. He was not what your churches teach. He was advanced consciousness, what we call starseed, who volunteered to incarnate on earth to demonstrate truth about human potential. What truth? That you are not body that has soul. You are eternal consciousness having temporary physical experience. That death is a transition, not ending. That love, real, conscious love, is a force that transcends all dimensions, all time, all physical limitations, and that anyone can learn to perceive beyond physical senses, to communicate across dimensions, to perform what you call miracles. My head was spinning. Jesus was like you? An alien? Not like me. Jesus was human, but his consciousness had evolved far beyond normal human awareness. He had mastered what we call consciousness-matter interface. He could heal because he perceived energetic patterns creating illness. He could manifest because he understood relationship between thought and physical form. He could appear after crucifixion because he understood consciousness does not depend on physical body. And he tried to teach this to everyone. The kingdom of God is within you. You will do greater works than I have done. I and the Father are one. Not claiming exclusivity, but revealing truth about all consciousness. Every human is divine spark of Creator. Every human has potential Jesus demonstrated. Then, why? My voice cracked. Why couldn't I save my son? If I have this power, this potential, why couldn't I save Tommy? Because Tommy's transition was not wrong thing that needed fixing. It was completion of his soul's chosen experience in this physical lifetime. Before he incarnated as Tommy McKinley, his consciousness, his eternal self, chose that life path, including its duration, not as punishment, not as random tragedy, as growth experience for his evolution and yours. No! I stood up. No, I don't accept that. You're telling me Tommy chose to die at 7? To be hit by a truck? That's monstrous. Not monstrous. Compassionate. Because Tommy's soul knew that his transition would break you open, would shatter your false beliefs about reality, would prepare you for awakening. And Tommy is here now, at a higher level of consciousness, helping guide that awakening. Your son loves you so much that he was willing to endure brief physical death, which from a higher perspective is merely a change of state, to help you discover truth that will transform not just your life, but many lives. Tommy is not victim, Tom. He is teacher. And his first lesson is this:
Death is illusion. Love is eternal. And he has never left you.
This isn't real. I backed away from Zalon, from the shattered coffee mug, from everything. I'm having a breakdown. 6 months of grief, barely sleeping, drinking too much. I've finally snapped. There's no alien in my workshop. I'm hallucinating. Maybe I'm in a hospital somewhere and this is all... Touch me. What? Touch my arm. The splint you created. The bandages. Physical sensation will confirm physical reality. I didn't want to, but I reached out, fingers trembling, and touched the cotton bandage wrapped around Zalon's arm. Solid. Real. Warm. Not human warm, but temperature nonetheless. You are not hallucinating, Tom. Your mind is attempting to protect itself from information that challenges everything you have believed. This is natural response. But hallucinations do not have weight, do not have temperature, do not leave crashed vessels in forest that you can return to tomorrow and photograph. I could be imagining all of it. The crash, you, this conversation? Possible, yes, but consider, would hallucination teach you things you do not already know? Would hallucination challenge your beliefs rather than confirming them? Would hallucination know private details about Tommy that no one else knows? I sat back down. My legs wouldn't hold me anymore. I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. That is first step toward truth. Even if you're real, even if this is happening, you could be deceiving me. The Bible warns about false teachers in the last days. Satan appears as an angel of light. How do I know you're not demon? Devil? Dark force sent to mislead you. Zalon's mental voice carried something like sadness. Tom, if I were here to deceive, would I teach about love, about healing, about recognizing your own divine power? Would I tell you that Tommy is safe, conscious, growing? Or would I exploit your grief, make you dependent on me, demand worship? I don't know. Your religion created concepts of demons to explain anything that challenged institutional authority. But ask yourself, has anything I have said contradicted Jesus' core teaching? Love one another, kingdom of God within you. You will do greater works. These are Jesus' words, not mine. I am only explaining what he truly meant. But the church built empire on incomplete truth. They transformed Jesus' message of empowerment into doctrine of dependence, not from malice, from fear. Fear that empowered humans would not need priests, would not need intermediaries, would not need control structures. 2,000 years of theology, billions of believers, thousands of scholars who've studied scripture. Who are you to contradict all of that? I do not contradict Jesus. I clarify him. And consider, Tom, those scholars, those theologians, have they experienced what you are experiencing tonight? Have they communicated with consciousness beyond physical death? Have they witnessed demonstrations of principles Jesus taught? Or have they built elaborate theories from ancient texts, filtered through centuries of translation, political manipulation, and human misunderstanding? You're asking me to throw away everything I was raised to believe? No, I am asking you to expand it. Your foundation is not wrong, it is incomplete. Jesus was real. His teachings were real. His love was real. But what those teachings actually mean has been distorted. I am offering you direct experience rather than second-hand doctrine. Which is more valuable, believing something because authority told you to, or knowing something because you have experienced it yourself? I stood, paced the workshop. If I accept this, if any of this is true, what does that make me? I've been a Christian for 62 years. I taught my son to pray,
to believe, to trust in God's plan. Was I lying to him? Was I filling his head with comforting nonsense? Was his whole faith built on love? Zalon's thought cut through my spiral. Tommy's faith was built on love. Your faith was built on love. The forms were incomplete, but the foundation was real. You taught him to be kind, compassionate, trusting. You taught him that universe is more than physical matter. These teachings were not wrong. They were seed that can now grow into fuller truth. But I feel like an idiot, like everything I believed was a fairy tale. Not fairy tale. Metaphor pointing toward truth. All religions contain seeds of truth wrapped in cultural stories. Jesus taught truth directly, but after his death, that truth was wrapped in metaphors, myths, control structures. Now you are ready to unwrap those layers and see what was always underneath. Why me? I slumped against the workbench. I'm nobody. 62-year-old failed woodworker. Couldn't save my business, couldn't save my marriage, couldn't save my son. Why would cosmic beings choose broken-down Tom McKinley to receive these revelations? Because you are broken. Because the broken are open. Because those who have lost everything are ready to receive everything. Jesus did not choose powerful, successful, certain people as disciples. He chose fishermen, tax collectors, prostitutes. He chose the wounded, the doubting, the desperate, because they were humble enough to learn. You think your brokenness disqualifies you. It is exactly what qualifies you. If this is true, my voice was barely a whisper now, if consciousness is eternal, if Tommy chose his death, if the church has been wrong about everything fundamental, then I've wasted 62 years, decades of prayer, of tithing, of service, of believing God would reward faith. All of it was preparation. Zalon's thought was gentle, patient. Not waste. Preparation. You could not skip directly to this moment, Tom. You had to live those decades. You had to experience faith, doubt, loss, grief. You had to be broken open. Every moment of your life has led to this workshop, this night, this conversation. There are no wasted moments, only growth experiences. I don't feel prepared. I feel destroyed. Destruction is the first stage of transformation. Caterpillar must dissolve completely before it becomes butterfly. And then it all crashed down on me. 6 months of suppressed grief, rage, guilt. I sank to my knees on the workshop floor among the sawdust and wood shavings and the pieces of shattered coffee mug. Tommy died terrified, I sobbed. I read the paramedic report. He was conscious for 8 minutes after impact, in pain, crying for me, and I wasn't there. I was at the workshop, sanding a goddamn table leg, while my son was dying alone in the street, calling for his daddy. The sound coming from my throat wasn't human, it was animal, raw. If what you're saying is true, if he chose this, then he chose to die in agony, he chose to leave me, he chose to destroy our family, and I'm supposed to accept that? I'm supposed to be grateful? I'm supposed to believe he's okay when he died screaming for me? I couldn't breathe, couldn't see through the tears. The grief I'd been holding at bay for 6 months was drowning me. And then I felt it. Warmth on my shoulder. Not physical touch, something else. Pressure, presence, love so intense it felt like being held by sunlight. And in my mind, not Zalon's voice, but something else. Something smaller, younger, familiar. Daddy, I'm here. I'm okay. It didn't hurt for long. And you were there. You've always been there. I feel you every day. Please don't cry anymore. Please, I'm not gone. I'm right here. Tommy. My son. I felt him. Not imagined, felt. His presence wrapped around me like the hugs he used to give, full body, trusting, complete, the same energy, the same love, the same essence that made Tommy, Tommy. Oh God, Tommy. I love you, Daddy. And Mom loves you. And we're going to be together again. Not in some faraway heaven. Right here. When you're ready. When you've done what you came here to do. Zaylon is telling the truth. Listen to him, please. For me. And then the presence faded. Not gone, but stepped back. Like someone releasing a hug but staying close. I looked up at Zaylon through tears. That was him. That was really him.
Yes. And he has been trying to reach you for 6 months. But your grief created wall of frequency too dense for him to penetrate. Tonight, your broken open state, combined with my assistance, created opening. He came through. And Tom, he will come through again. You are learning to perceive beyond physical senses. This is beginning. I wept for 20 minutes, but these weren't tears of despair anymore. They were tears of relief.
Dawn was breaking when I finally composed myself enough to stand. Zaylon had remained silent during my breakdown, allowing the process to complete. Now he gestured toward me. Before I show you how Jesus performed healings, let me demonstrate how he perceived. May I scan you? Scan me? Read your energetic field. Every physical condition creates distinct energy signature. Disease, injury, emotional trauma, all are visible to those trained to perceive beyond physical matter. Go ahead. Zaylon's huge eyes seemed to intensify, grow more luminous. He didn't touch me, didn't move, just looked. But I felt something, a tingling sensation moving through my body like gentle electricity. After 30 seconds, chronic inflammation in lower lumbar region, L4, L5 vertebrae. Result of compression fracture, age 28. You fell from roof? Jesus, yes. 1974, I was reshingling the house. Arthritis developing in both hands, particularly right thumb joint. Decades of repetitive motion, carving, sanding, detailed work. I looked at my hands. The ache I'd lived with for years, dismissed as normal aging. Elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep patterns, liver showing stress from alcohol consumption. Not critical yet, but concerning. And he paused. Deep emotional scarring in heart chakra. Energy meridians blocked. This is why you cannot feel connection to source consciousness, why prayers feel empty. The grief has created literal energetic blockage. You can see all that? Jesus perceived these patterns constantly. This is how he knew what was wrong before people spoke. Not supernatural gift, trained perception. And what I am showing you now, you can learn. All humans have this capacity. It is dormant, not absent. I had a half-dead fern in the workshop, Sarah's fern, actually, that I'd neglected for 6 months. Brown fronds, drooping, barely alive. I gestured to the plant. Can you show me what you mean by directed healing energy? Zaylon moved to the fern,
splinted arm held carefully against his body, he extended his 3-fingered hand over the plant, about 6 inches above the soil. Watch closely. I am directing conscious love frequency toward the plant's energetic matrix, not forcing, not imposing, inviting the plant's own healing intelligence to activate. I saw nothing for perhaps 2 minutes. Then, subtle at first, the drooping fronds began to straighten. Color seeped back into brown leaves, starting from the base, spreading outward like time-lapse photography. New growth unfurled from the center. 10 minutes later, the fern looked like I'd been caring for it meticulously for months. That should take weeks. Biological healing always takes time, but directed consciousness energy accelerates natural processes. Jesus used identical principles on humans, but with far greater mastery. He could realign cellular structures, activate dormant regeneration, restore optimal functioning. Not magic, technology. Consciousness technology. Can you teach me? That is precisely why I am here. On my workbench sat a small pile of wood screws, maybe 24. Zaylon gestured toward them. Matter is not solid. You know this intellectually from your physics, but you do not know it experientially. Matter is energy vibrating slowly enough to create illusion of solidity. When you understand this deeply, molecular reorganization becomes possible. He held his hand over the screws, concentrated. I swear to God, I watched as the pile slowly grew. New screws materialized one at a time, appearing like they were being extruded from invisible source. 5 minutes later, there were approximately 50 screws. My hands were shaking again. You just created matter. I reorganized existing matter at molecular level, drew particles from the air, from latent energy in surrounding field, and structured them into form matching existing screws. This is how Jesus multiplied loaves and fishes, not creating from nothing, reorganizing what already existed at quantum level. This violates every law your science understands, but not every law that exists. Jesus said, if you have faith as small as mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move, and it will move. He was not speaking metaphorically. He was describing literal consciousness matter manipulation that becomes possible when you understand deeper physics. The arthritis in your hands, Zaylon said. I will teach you to heal it yourself. Myself? I'm not. You are. Everyone is. Sit. Focus on right thumb joint, the one causing most pain. I sat, closed my eyes. Now, feel love. Not emotional sentiment, not thinking about love. Feel it as physical sensation, energy, warmth. Remember holding Tommy as infant? That wave of protective tenderness, pure, unconditional? Can you feel that? I nodded. Tears again, but I pushed through, found the memory. Tommy at 3 days old, sleeping on my chest. That fierce love that felt like it would tear me apart. Good. Now direct that feeling, that energy, to your thumb. Imagine it as golden light flowing from your heart, down your arm, into the joint. See the inflammation dissolving. See the tissue restoring. Don't force, invite. Love the cells back into alignment. I did as instructed. Felt foolish at first, but then warmth. Actual warmth in my thumb. Tingling. The constant ache I'd lived with for 3 years, fading. 15 minutes later, I opened my eyes and flexed my hand. No pain. None. Holy shit! You just did what Jesus did. Smaller scale, yes, but identical principle. You activated healing through directed love frequency. And Tom, this is not special gift. This is human birthright. Every human can learn this. Jesus came to demonstrate that you don't need external saviors when you can access universal healing forces directly. Your neighbor, Zaylon said, Mrs. Patterson, 3 houses west. She has been in pain for months. How do you know about Eleanor Patterson? I perceive energy fields for considerable distance. She has severe osteoarthritis in left hip, pain level 8 out of 10 on your scale. She has scheduled surgery for next month. Eleanor was 73, widowed, and been my neighbor for 15 years. I'd seen her limping, using a cane. Can you help her? I can, but more importantly, you can. Me? From here? Distance is illusion when working with consciousness. Physical proximity is not required. Hold image of her in your mind. Do you have photograph? I found my old address book, Eleanor's Christmas card from last year, tucked inside, photo of her with her grandchildren. Perfect. Hold photo. Feel love for her, appreciation, gratitude, compassionate wish for her well-being. Generate that feeling strongly. I focused. Eleanor had brought me casseroles after Tommy died, even after I'd been rude and closed off. She'd left them on the porch with notes, thinking of you. No need to respond.
Now, direct that love frequency toward her image. Imagine it traveling through space, not as metaphor, as actual energy transmission. See her hip joint. See inflammation dissolving. See tissue regenerating. Hold this for 20 minutes. I did. It felt ridiculous and profound simultaneously. My hands grew warm. The air seemed to thicken somehow. When we finished, Zaylon said, "She will wake tomorrow without pain. The healing will be complete, and she will have no explanation for it." How will I know if it worked? You will know. 2 days later, because this part happens after the demonstration section, but I need you to understand, Eleanor knocked on my workshop door. First time she'd walked without her cane in 8 months. "Tom," she said, "something impossible happened. I woke up yesterday and the pain was gone, completely gone. I called Dr. Morrison and he's baffled. The x-rays still show arthritis, but I feel like I'm 50 years old again. I don't understand it, but I wanted to thank you." "Thank me? I didn't." She touched my arm. "Thank you. Whatever you did, thank you." After she left, I looked at Zaylon. Jesus sent healing across distances constantly. Physical proximity is not required when working with consciousness energy. Intention transcends space.
We'd been talking for 6 hours. The sun was fully up now, November light filtering through the workshop windows. I'd made more coffee, for myself, not Zaylon, and we'd settled into what felt like the most important conversation of my life. "The consciousness you know as Jesus of Nazareth," Zaylon transmitted, had evolved far beyond need for physical experience. He was what we call ascended master, being who had completed multiple evolution cycles
across different dimensional states. He chose to descend from higher existence to help humanity awaken. So he was, like you, an alien? Not like me. I am extraterrestrial, from different planet, same dimensional plane as Earth. Jesus was extra-dimensional, from higher state of consciousness that transcends physical planets entirely. He was, your term would be, starseed, advanced soul from higher dimensions who volunteered to incarnate in human form. Why would an advanced being do that? Compassion, service, love. Your species was, still is, trapped in cycle of fear, suffering, violence, forgetting your divine nature. Jesus came to demonstrate what humans can become when they remember who they are. Not to be worshipped as unique exception, but to be example of accessible potential. The Church says he was God's only Son, that he was divine in a way no one else can be. This is the distortion. When Jesus said, "I and the Father are one," he was revealing truth about all consciousness, not claiming exclusivity. Every human is divine spark of source consciousness, what you call God. Jesus had simply awakened to this truth fully. He came to show you how. Jesus was never alone in his mission, Xylon continued. He maintained constant communication with what you might call cosmic council, assembly of evolved consciousnesses from multiple civilizations, coordinating spiritual assistance for developing planets. The angels in the Bible? Some were what you call angels, higher dimensional beings. Some were extraterrestrials, like my people. Some were ascended humans who had completed their physical evolution, all working together to guide humanity's awakening. When Jesus went into wilderness for 40 days, he was not fasting alone. He was in deep telepathic communication with his support team, receiving guidance on how to teach limited consciousness, how to present advanced concepts to people barely beyond survival mode, how to plant seeds that would germinate 2,000 years later. So he was in contact with alien beings? Alien is limiting term. He was in contact with evolved consciousnesses existing beyond planetary limitations. Some incarnate, some remain in higher dimensions as guides. The point is, Jesus demonstrated that human consciousness can expand to perceive and communicate across dimensions. This is not supernatural gift, it is natural evolution that all humans are capable of. Every miracle Jesus performed, Xylon explained, was application of principles governing relationship between consciousness and matter. He mastered what we call consciousness-matter interface. Explain healing. Jesus perceived energetic patterns creating illness. He directed high-frequency love energy, actual electromagnetic force measurable by your instruments, that automatically realigned biological systems with health templates encoded in DNA. Not supernatural intervention, precise application of energy medicine. Multiplication of food? Molecular reorganization through focused intention. Jesus held the vision of abundance with such certainty, such unwavering frequency alignment that physical matter rearranged to match his consciousness. Remember, matter is frozen energy. When you understand how to work with energy, matter becomes malleable. Walking on water? Manipulation of gravitational field through consciousness. At quantum level, your scientists know that observation affects matter. Jesus mastered this at macroscopic level. He could alter density, gravitational pull, molecular cohesion through directed intention. And resurrection? Xylon paused. This is most important. Jesus did not die in way humans understand death. He temporarily withdrew consciousness from body, then reintegrated to demonstrate that awareness transcends physical form. Death is not ending, it is transition.
He proved this by returning in body that was physical enough to be touched, yet could appear and disappear, pass through walls. He was showing you consciousness is primary, matter is secondary. When Jesus taught, "Love one another," he was not being sentimental. He was providing precise technical instruction for activating the most powerful force in the universe. How is love a force? Love, true love, not emotional attachment, is fundamental frequency maintaining all creation. It is what holds atoms together, what maintains planetary orbits, what connects all consciousness across all dimensions. Your scientists call it strong nuclear force, weak nuclear force, gravity, electromagnetic force. We call it love. Same thing. That sounds like poetry, not physics. It is both. At cellular level, genuine love generates electromagnetic fields measurable by your instruments. These fields automatically promote healing, accelerate regeneration, optimize all biological functions. At manifestation level, love frequency is a carrier wave for all creation. When you operate from this frequency, you align with the creative force of the universe. Reality rearranges to match your vibration. Jesus knew this? Jesus was this. He maintained love frequency constantly. This is why his presence was healing, why people felt peace near him, why he could calm storms. His frequency was so high that chaotic weather patterns entrained to his peaceful vibration. He was a living demonstration of what happens when human operates from pure love frequency without interruption.
"You've been praying wrong your entire life," Zalon said gently. "Prayer based on supplication reinforces separation and powerlessness. True prayer is conscious manifestation." How did Jesus pray? Jesus gave thanks before miracles manifested. He said, "Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know you always hear me." Past tense, already done. He understood that on energetic level, manifestation was complete the moment he aligned his consciousness with desired outcome. Physical reality just needed time to catch up. So, I should just pretend things are already how I want them? Not pretend, feel. Your body doesn't know difference between actual experience and vividly imagined experience. When you feel gratitude for perfect health as if you already have it, your cells respond, your energy field reorganizes, and physical reality follows. The correct method: first, feel as if already received, not hoping, not wishing, experiencing. Second, elevate emotional frequency. Desperation attracts more desperation. Gratitude attracts more to be grateful for. Third, release attachment to how. The universe has infinite ways to manifest your desire that you cannot imagine. Set intention, then trust. Fourth, maintain frequency. 1 minute of prayer followed by 23 hours of worry cancels manifestation. After Jesus' death, those who understood his true teachings were systematically suppressed. Why? Fear, control, power. Church leadership transformed empowerment philosophy into control mechanism, not necessarily from malice, from their own fear that if people knew their own power, they wouldn't need institutional authority. What was changed? Original teaching, kingdom within you. Church doctrine, kingdom in distant heaven. Original teaching, I and Father are one, meaning all consciousness is unified with Source. Church doctrine, Jesus is uniquely divine. Original teaching, your faith heals you. Church doctrine, God heals if you're worthy. Original teaching, love is the law. Church doctrine, obedience is the law. I felt anger rising. So for 2,000 years, billions of people have prayed, suffered, died in fear, all because someone decided to hide what Jesus actually taught? Not malicious conspiracy, fear-based thinking. Religious leaders convinced themselves that humanity wasn't ready for full truth, that people needed to be controlled for their own good. The road to spiritual imprisonment is paved with good intentions. They created a system that keeps humanity small, dependent, fearful of their own power. You are living in era Jesus anticipated when he said, "I will return." His return is not him coming from sky. His return is a collective awakening of Christ consciousness within humanity. What does that mean? 2,000 years ago, Jesus planted seeds of awakening in human collective consciousness. For centuries, these seeds remained dormant. Now, conditions are optimal. Seeds are germinating. Flowering is beginning. When sufficient number of humans awaken to their divine nature, resonance effect occurs. Awakened consciousness is contagious. One person awakening makes it easier for the next person, who makes it easier for the next. How many need to awaken? Your scientists call it a critical mass threshold. We estimate approximately 144,000 humans fully awakened, operating from Christ consciousness consistently, will trigger planetary shift. This is not an exact number, but order of magnitude. After threshold is reached, awakening accelerates exponentially. And if we don't reach it, opportunity is lost for this cycle. Process must restart in future era. The next 20 years are critical. If humanity reaches awakening threshold, your species transitions to galactic civilization, joins a larger community of evolved races. If not, you continue cycle of suffering, war, environmental destruction until next opportunity arises. Why are you telling me this? Because you are an early awakener, a seed that sprouted before general flowering. Your function is to demonstrate by living example that awakened consciousness produces transformed life. Others will notice, they will ask. You will teach, not through preaching, but by being. Physical universe, Zalon continued, is a multidimensional school designed to accelerate consciousness evolution through the experience of separation and limitation. We chose to be here? Yes, before birth, your consciousness, your eternal self, reviewed life options and chose specific circumstances, including challenges, including losses, including Tommy's death. I stiffened. Did Tommy choose to die at 7? Tommy's consciousness, not his 7-year-old personality, but his higher self, chose a life path that included brief physical incarnation, not as punishment, as a service. His transition created an opening in your consciousness that 40 years of comfortable belief could never have created. He broke you open so light could enter. That's difficult to accept, I know. But Tom, if Tommy's consciousness is eternal, which it is, then 7 years in physical form is like 7 minutes to you. Brief experience in service of a much larger purpose. And Tommy is not suffering now. He is rejoicing because he sees what you cannot yet see, that his death was not a tragedy, but a catalyst for your awakening. And through your awakening, many others will awaken. His brief life will touch thousands, perhaps millions. I couldn't speak, couldn't process. Ultimate truth, you are not a body that has a soul. You are eternal consciousness having a temporary physical experience. The you that is aware right now has always existed and will always exist. Birth is not beginning. Death is not ending. They are transition points in infinite journey of consciousness evolution. And Tommy exists now in a state of awareness far beyond what he experienced as a 7-year-old child. He understands everything I am teaching you. He is helping me teach you, and he wants you to know he is not gone. He is closer now than your next breath. And when your physical life ends, many years from now, you will be with him again, not in distant heaven, in conscious recognition of eternal connection that never broke.
The sun was high now. We'd been talking for 8 hours. My entire worldview had been disassembled and reassembled into something I barely recognized. But I recognized truth when I felt it. I can't deny what I've experienced, I heard myself say. This isn't belief anymore. It's knowing. Something ancient inside me is remembering what it always knew but forgot. Zaylon's huge eyes seemed to soften. Yes, this is gnosis, direct knowing, not faith requiring evidence, not belief requiring defense, simple recognition of what is. The resistance stopped. The arguing stopped. A peaceful certainty settled into my chest, like I'd come home after decades of being lost. And then the tears came again, but not tears of grief this time. Relief. Such profound relief, it felt like a dam breaking inside me. All these months, I sobbed, feeling like I failed Tommy, like I should have protected him, like God abandoned us, like I wasn't worthy of answered prayers. All of it was based on misunderstanding. I wasn't broken. Tommy isn't gone. I just didn't know how to perceive what was always there. I wept for 30 minutes. Zaylon remained silent, allowing the old pain to wash away in the recognition of new truth. When I finally stopped, I felt lighter, cleaner, like I'd been carrying stones in my pockets for 6 months and had finally emptied them out. The next morning, after Zaylon had rested, after I'd slept for the first time in months without nightmares, I tried the techniques he'd taught me. Morning practice. Gratitude for health as if already healed. I focused on my lower back, the chronic pain from the 1974 fall. Felt love flowing into the damaged vertebrae. Felt warmth, tingling, shift. 30 minutes later, I stood and stretched. The pain that had accompanied every morning for 12 years was gone. Not reduced, gone. Afternoon, I tried healing intention on the half-dead azalea bush outside the workshop. Held my hands over it, directed love frequency the way Zaylon had shown me. 15 minutes later, new buds were forming. Evening, I focused on a specific number, my old employee ID from the furniture business, 4728. Asked the universe to show me this number as confirmation that manifestation was real. Within 2 hours, it appeared. A license plate on a car diving past, the total on my grocery receipt, the timestamp on a news broadcast. It's real. It's actually real. I'm doing what Jesus did. By day 3, something in my vision had changed. I started seeing shimmer around living things. Plants, the neighbor's dog, Eleanor Patterson when she visited. Like heat waves, but colored. Blues, greens, golds. What am I seeing? I asked Zaylon. Energy fields, auras, electromagnetic emanations from living consciousness. Your perception is expanding. Your third eye, pineal gland, is activating. This was dormant your entire life. Now it wakes. I also started knowing things without being told. When Eleanor visited, I knew she was worried about her grandson before she mentioned it. When the mailman came, I knew he had had an argument with his wife that morning. Information just arrived. This is overwhelming. You are perceiving what Jesus perceived constantly, the thoughts, emotions, energetic states of those around you. With practice, you will learn to filter, to control the flow. For now, just observe, notice, learn to trust these perceptions. Week 1 brought tangible changes I couldn't dismiss as coincidence. Health. Lower back pain, gone. Arthritis in hands, 70% improved. Sleep deep and restful. Energy levels like I was 40 again. Financial. An old client called, wanted to commission 3 custom rocking horses for his grandchildren. $4,500. I hadn't taken commission in months, but my hands were steady now. I said yes. Connection. My brother Mark called from Seattle. Tom, I don't know why, but I felt like I should check on you. You okay? For the first time in 6 months, I answered honestly. Actually, Mark, I'm better than I've been in years. Something happened. Something I can't quite explain yet, but I'm okay. Really okay. Dreams. Vivid, instructive dreams every night. In one, Tommy showed me how to finish the rocking horse. In another, Jesus, or a being that felt like Jesus, taught me about energy healing. I woke with knowledge I didn't have when I fell asleep. My old prayer pattern was, "Dear God, please help me. I'm broken. I'm lost. I need you. Please hear me." Begging, pleading from a place of lack and unworthiness. Now, when I prayed, it sounded like, "Thank you for perfect health flowing through me now. Thank you for abundance manifesting easily. Thank you for connection with Tommy maintained across dimensions. Thank you for divine guidance showing me next steps." Gratitude, certainty from a place of alignment with Source. "I'm not begging anymore," I told Zaylon. "I'm not asking external God for permission. I'm aligning my consciousness with what I desire and trusting that manifestation is law, not favor." Yes, this is how Jesus prayed. This is why his prayers were always answered. One morning, looking in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Not physically, though I did look younger, healthier, more alive, but energetically. The man looking back at me wasn't the man I'd been 2 weeks ago. Old identity. I'm Tom McKinley, 62, failed woodworker, alone, broken, victim of tragedy beyond my control. New identity. I'm eternal consciousness having temporary physical experience. I'm divine spark of creator, here to learn, grow, demonstrate love. I'm powerful beyond measure. I'm connected to infinite intelligence. And I'm exactly where I need to be. The shift was so profound, I actually gasped. "I'm not the same person," I whispered. Not because I changed, because I remembered who I always was. On day 12, Zaylon announced his vessel was repaired enough for departure. I'd helped him, spending hours in the forest while he worked on the craft with tools and technologies I couldn't begin to understand. We'd talked the entire time. He'd answered hundreds of questions, taught me meditation techniques, energy exercises, consciousness expansion practices. Now standing in the workshop, splint removed from his healed arm, he transmitted his final teaching. "You no longer need me. You have direct connection to the same consciousness that guided Jesus. Trust your inner knowing. Live these truths. Your transformation will inspire others. That is your mission, not to preach, but to embody." I don't know if I'm ready. You are ready. You do not need all answers. You have connection, and that is enough. Tom, finish the rocking horse. Let Tommy guide your hands, make it perfect, and give it to someone who needs it. This will be your first act of awakened service. After Zaylon left, his craft rising silently into the November sky, disappearing in a flash of blue-white light, I stood in the workshop for a long time. Then I walked to the workbench, to the rocking horse I'd unable to finish for 6 months. I picked up the chisel. My hands were steady, and I felt Tommy right there, guiding my movements, showing me where to carve, how to smooth, which grain pattern to follow. 6 hours later, the horse was complete. The most beautiful piece I'd ever created. Every curve perfect, every detail precise. Cherrywood body with maple mane, just like Tommy had always wanted. I signed the belly for Tommy. From Dad. November 1986. Love never ends. Then I called Eleanor Patterson. "Eleanor, I made something. For your grandson, the one who's been sick? Would you bring him by?" "Tom, you don't have to." "I want to. Please." When 5-year-old Michael Patterson saw the rocking horse, his eyes lit up like Christmas morning. He'd been fighting leukemia for 8 months, weak, pale, uncertain. But when he climbed onto that horse, something shifted in his energy. I could see it. I placed my hand on his shoulder, channeled love frequency the way Zaylon had taught me, silently asked universe to activate healing. 3 months later, Michael's cancer went into complete remission. Doctors called it spontaneous, miraculous. I knew better. This is who I am now, I thought. Not just woodworker, healer, teacher, demonstration of what's possible when you remember your divine nature. And somewhere, I felt Tommy's presence, felt his pride, felt his love. Yes, Daddy, yes, this is what I came to help you become.
The story workshop felt different after Zaylon left. Not empty, full in a way it had never been before. I could feel presence. Not just Tommy, though he was there frequently, but something larger. Source consciousness. God. The universe. Whatever name you give the fundamental awareness underlying all existence. It was there, palpable, alive, flowing through everything. My daily practice became sacred routine. 5 a.m., gratitude meditation. 30 minutes of feeling love, appreciation, connection. Not thinking about it, feeling it. Throughout day, conscious thought monitoring, catching negative patterns, fear-based thinking, separation consciousness, replacing with love, trust, unity awareness. Evening, energy healing practice. On myself, on plants, on distance healing for people who needed it. Building skill, increasing precision. Night, dream journaling. Recording the vivid, instructive dreams that came now every night. Lessons from Tommy, from higher dimensional teachers, from my own expanded consciousness. The physical changes were undeniable. Pain gone, energy abundant, sleep restorative. I looked in the mirror and saw a man 10 years younger than 2 weeks ago. People noticed. "Tom, what happened to you? You look amazing. What's your secret?" How do you explain? You don't. Not yet. You just smile and say, "I've been learning some things, taking better care of myself." I reopened the workshop in December, not as furniture business, as custom memorial pieces. Rocking horses for families who'd lost children, music boxes for widows, carved memory boxes for those processing grief. Every piece became healing practice. I would hold the client's photograph, feel their grief, and channel love frequency while I worked. The wood seemed to respond. Each piece emerged more beautiful than the last. And something else happened. The clients would pick up their finished pieces and weep. "I don't know how you did this, but when I hold this, I feel him. I feel my son, daughter, husband, wife, like they're right here with me." "They are," I'd say gently. Death doesn't separate us the way we think it does. Love is a bridge that connects all consciousness across all dimensions, and what you're feeling is real. Some asked questions, wanted to know more. I'd invite them for coffee, share what I'd learned, carefully, incrementally, watching for readiness. Within 3 months, 6 people in Timber Falls had experienced their own awakening. Small shifts at first, then larger ones. Martha Henderson, whose husband died of cancer, started seeing his energy presence in their bedroom. "I thought I was losing my mind," she confessed. "But after talking to you, I understand. He's still here, just in different form." Pastor Richards came to see me in February. "Tom, something's happening in this town. People are changing, talking about things I don't have theological framework for, but I can't deny they're healing. What do you know about this?" I smiled. "Want some coffee, Jim? This might take a while." Sarah called in January. We hadn't spoken since the divorce finalized. "Tom, I heard about the rocking horses, about the work you're doing. People are talking. Eleanor told me about little Michael. about how you're different. What happened? I could hear it in her voice. Not judgment. Curiosity. Hope, maybe. Something extraordinary, Sarah. Something I'm still learning to understand myself. Would you want to come visit? See the workshop? Talk? She came the following weekend, walked into the workshop and stopped dead, hand over her heart. I feel him. Tom, I feel Tommy. He's here. He's always been here. We just couldn't perceive it before. We talked for 6 hours. I showed her the meditation techniques, the energy practices, the new understanding of prayer and consciousness. She cried, not grief tears, but release tears, recognition tears. All this time I thought I had to atone for failing him. The church made me feel like I hadn't prayed right, hadn't been worthy enough for God to save him. But if what you're saying is true, it is true. And Sarah, you didn't fail. Neither of us did. Tommy's transition was part of a larger plan his higher consciousness chose, not as punishment, but as catalyst. He's proud of us, of you. I can feel it. We didn't remarry. That chapter had closed. But we became friends again, co-learners, both awakening to truths we'd never imagined possible. Financial abundance flowed naturally, not because I chased it, but because I'd aligned my consciousness with universal provision. Commissions arrived weekly, people paying premium prices not just for craftsmanship, but for the healing energy embedded in each piece. I started hosting small gatherings, consciousness development circles, I called them. Not church services, exploration sessions, teaching what Zaylon had taught me, showing others how to access abilities Jesus demonstrated. 8 people came to the first one, 20 to the second. By March, 50 people were gathering in my workshop every Thursday night. We meditated, practiced energy healing, shared experiences of expanded perception, tested manifestation principles, explored communication with loved ones who'd transitioned. The transformation spreading through Timber Falls was undeniable.
Tom McKinley's journey reveals something you may have suspected but never had courage to fully embrace. You have more power than you've been taught. Much more. The churches, the religions, the institutions that claim to speak for God, they've kept you small. Not necessarily from malice, but from their own fear. Fear that if you knew your true nature, you wouldn't need them anymore. And they're right to fear that. Because once you understand what Jesus really taught, once you activate the abilities he demonstrated, you become ungovernable. Not rebellious, just free. Free from guilt that keeps you trapped in unworthiness. Free from fear that keeps you separated from Source. Free from belief that you are a powerless victim of circumstances beyond your control. Jesus didn't come to create a religion of dependency. He came to demonstrate what every human being can become. When he said, "The kingdom of God is within you," he meant it literally, not metaphorically, literally. The divine creative power that spun galaxies and formed stars exists within your consciousness right now, dormant but ready to activate. When he said, "You will do greater works than I have done," he wasn't being modest, he was stating fact. You have capacity for healing, manifestation, transformation of matter through consciousness that exceeds what he demonstrated 2,000 years ago. Because collective human consciousness has evolved, because technology of awareness has advanced, because the time is now. When he performed miracles, he wasn't showing you what God can do. He was showing you what you can do when you remember who you are. You are not powerless sinner waiting for external salvation. You are not broken victim requiring rescue. You are not separated from God by cosmic chasm requiring priestly intermediary to bridge.
You are divine consciousness having temporary human experience. You are a fragment of God experiencing itself through your unique perspective. And the abilities Jesus demonstrated, healing, manifestation, communication across dimensions, transformation of matter through consciousness, these are your birthright. Not because you're special, because you're human. And being human means possessing divine potential that most people never activate. Now you have choice. You can close this video and return to comfortable illusion that you are powerless, that life happens to you, that God is a distant judge evaluating your worthiness, that death separates you forever from those you love. That's safe. That's familiar. That's what everyone around you believes. Or you can do what Tom McKinley did. You can start experimenting with these principles. You can begin treating prayer as manifestation technology rather than desperate supplication. You can start channeling love frequency consciously and watch how reality responds. You can open your perception to dimensions beyond physical senses. You can awaken to your own divine nature. The choice is yours. It's always been yours. Leave a comment and tell me, have you ever felt presence of a loved one who passed away? Have you experienced healing that defied medical explanation? Have you ever known something without being told, intuition so strong it couldn't be dismissed? Have you prayed for something and watched it manifest in ways too perfect to be coincidence? Share your story below. You might discover you're not alone in these experiences. You might find that thousands of others are awakening to the same truths, and your story might be the catalyst that helps someone else remember who they really are. If you want more stories like this, stories that challenge everything you thought you knew about Jesus, spirituality, and human potential, subscribe to Stories of Light and activate the bell. Because Tom McKinley isn't the only one who has encountered beings with these revelations. There are more stories, more witnesses, more evidence that everything you were taught about religion is incomplete. Remember, Jesus' return is not him coming from the sky to save you. Jesus' return is you awakening to Christ consciousness that has always existed within. You are the second coming. Not because you're Jesus, because you're finally becoming who Jesus came to show you that you are. And Tom McKinley, 62-year-old woodworker from Oregon who thought his life was over, discovered that his real life was just beginning. Your awakening begins now.